I remember walking into the studio that morning, the walls colder than they should have been. The chairs sat empty, the instruments untouched, the silence louder than any chord. John wasn't speaking. George was somewhere else in the building. Ringo's kid was quiet, his sticks unmoved. I sat at the piano, fingers hovering above the keys, unsure if anyone would notice, if anyone would care. And yet, in that emptiness, I began to hear it a simple phrase, a voice I barely understood myself saying, "Let it be." It was both a command and a consolation, a whisper meant for nobody, for everybody. And in that stillness, I realized, maybe this song could save me from the chaos we'd built around ourselves. We were fractured, not in a way that could be fixed with apologies or laughter. We'd spent years together, writing, touring, creating a world of music and sound, and somewhere along the way, we'd grown apart. The Abbey Road studio smelled of dust and varnish, familiar but sterile. Each instrument seemed to remember our laughter and our fights. It was funny, really, how sound could carry memory better than words ever could. I could hear the ghost of our younger selves between the walls, and I wanted to tell them something that made sense. I pressed a key, a soft note, then another. It didn't feel like music yet, just a language, a lifeline. I didn't know if it was meant for anyone else to hear. I didn't know if I was ready to forgive, to let go. But I played anyway, and in the quiet between the notes, I felt a presence, a calm, saying, "This is okay, let it be." The words became my anchor, the piano mic. Somehow, I knew this song had to exist, even if the band never spoke again. Days passed. We avoided each other in the studio, each of us wrapped in private frustrations. But the song grew. It whispered itself in fragments, melodies on scraps of paper, soon while I walked alone to the piano. When I find myself in times of trouble, I murmured to the empty room. No one corrected me. No one questioned me. It felt safe here. This room. Sometimes I'd glance at the empty chairs. Genesis silhouette. Absent. George's guitar leaning against the wall. Ringo's drumsticks untouched hand. Wonder if they would ever come back. And then the melody shifted. Softer, almost shy. Mother Mary comes to me. I imagined her beside me, guiding my fingers, steadying my voice. The tension in the walls softened, and for a moment, I was alone with the music. Not the arguments, not the fame, not the history we had made. The song wasn't just music hate, it was a reconciliation with myself, with what we'd lost. Every note, every pause, became a promise. I would see it through, even if they never returned. Then came the day we tried to record together. We hadn't spoken more than a few words all week. John was distant, fingers drumming on a table, not the guitar. George kept to himself, Ringo nodding but not speaking. I sat at the piano, feeling the weight of years of tension pressing down on my shoulders, and I began to play. The others listened first, in silence, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, they joined. John hummed. George picked up the guitar. Ringo tapped a rhythm. We were together again, not as we had been, not perfectly but enough to let the song breathe. Let it be, I whispered through the chords. It became our silent conversation. No arguments, no fights, no demands. Just the music. I realized in that moment that it wasn't about fixing the band. It wasn't even about the world hearing it. It was about acknowledging the fracture, embracing it, and still creating something beautiful. A quiet surrender that became a statement. Recording that night, the studio glowed in the soft warmth of old lamps. The piano hummed, guitars wove around it, drums held the heartbeat steady. I sang each line carefully, deliberately, letting the words carry the weight of our silence. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. I felt the truth of it. Not a solution, not a cure, but an acceptance. John nodded without looking at me. George exhaled, slowly, strumming a chord with intention. Ringo's rhythm steadied the fragile peace in the room. It was a fragile unity, yes, but one that had not existed for months. Each repetition of the chorus became a gentle affirmation, a quiet ritual. By the final take, we weren't just recording a song. We were letting go of pride, resentment, the years of tension that had built like a storm around us. And for those few minutes, the studio became a sanctuary, a place where creation triumphed over conflict. Let it be. It was the simplest line I had ever sung, and yet it carried more weight than anything else I had ever written. In that moment, the song wasn't ours. It belonged to the room, to the night, to the quiet hope that remains even when everything else falls apart. Years later, I still hear it in quiet moments, not just the song, but the memory of it of us, sitting in a fragile truce, letting the music speak for all the things we couldn't. The world knows the lyrics, the melody, the harmony, but I know the spaces in between the silence that made it possible. I know the weight of letting go, and the peace that comes when you do. Every time I play it alone, I hear the empty chairs, the absent faces, the tension soften into music, and I whisper along with the piano. Let it be. Because sometimes, that's all you can do. And sometimes, that's enough.